my name is Rizky Kobutris. Now we will talk about hidden Markov model. Before we are talking about the hidden Markov model, I want to talk about what is the sequential data, because we use hidden Markov model to predict from this sequential data. So after that, I want to talk about the Markov model first, and the last we are talking about the hidden Markov models in 3 different approaches. So now we are talking about the sequential data first. So the sequential data is data where the orders are matter, and this sometimes often arise through the measurement of time series, such as predicting rainfall and any exchange rate or financial forecasting. But also it arises in the context form, such as in DNA sequence and also the speech recognition. So the goal in this session is that we need to be able to predict the future values given the previous values. So for example, we have a binary observation that is to predict whether it will rain or not on a day. So in this observation, we assume that this sequential data is independent and identically distributed, or IID. The problem of this observation data is that we only get the frequency on particular days. However, in reality, we can use the information on today's data to predict on tomorrow whether it will rain or not. So for the next one, we're talking about the Markov model. To express such effects in probabilistic model, we need to relax the IID assumption. And the one of the simplest way to do this is to consider a Markov model. So first of all, you can use the product rule to express the joint distribution of observation, so in the form of this formula. So we can get this joint distribution by multiplying all the conditional probability. Suppose we wish to build a model for a sequence is not limited by Markov assumption at any order, but can be specified in a limiting number of 3 parameters. So we introduce a latent variables Zn to permit the models to be constructed out of simple components for its observation Xn. So it also satisfies the key conditional independence property that Zn minus 1 as well as Zn plus 1 are independent given the Zn. So that we follow this, and we can see the graphical structure of this structure known as state space model. So from that latent variable, we can get the joint distribution is given by this formula. Let's move on to hidden Markov model. So hidden Markov models is a state space model where the value of Zn is discrete. And so in every step in the SMM, you can see here we have a correlation with the mixture distribution. And then this mixture distribution, we have like component densities that is given by Px given Z. And next one, the joints of the mixture component for its observation, it also depends on the previous states, and we denote it as Pzn given Zn minus 1. So I'd like to introduce another matrix, what we call transition probabilities matrix, that's denoted as the matrix A. So this matrix is a conditional distribution between our state and given by the previous states like here. And because A is a probability, so the range of each element is 0 until 1, and the sum of the A it should be equal to 1. From this, the conditional distribution between the states and previous states given A, we can denote it as this formula. Next, we have what we call a Z1, which is represented as initial state node. We know that this node does not have parent, so I like to introduce the vector probabilities of pi, which represent as the marginal distribution of Pz1, where the sum of each element is equal to 1, and we denote the Pz1 given the pi is equal to this form. Here I like to introduce the transition diagram. So in transition diagram, they have latent variable. For in this case, we have 3, and each latent variable has their own conditional probability that is represented as A. So because we have 3 nodes here, so the size of A is equal to 3 times 3, which in each column and each row has their own conditional probabilities. So from this transition diagram, we can unfold it into what we call the lattice and trace representation. And then it comes to the question, can we get the optimum parameter value for the HMM? To get that, we have 3 approaches. So the first one is where we're talking about the maximum likelihood for the HMM, and the other one is forward backward, and the last one is sum product algorithm. But now we are talking about the maximum likelihood for the HMM. So in this algorithm, suppose we have a observed data that is x equal to x1 until xn, and then we use this observed data to get the optimus parameter in the HMM. So then we have this function of likelihood that is p x given theta, that is theta is the parameters of the HMM, is equal to the sum of px, z given theta. So this joint distribution, that is px, z given theta, it cannot be factorized over the n. So we cannot simply treat this each n of this summation over zn independently. And then we cannot do directly the summation process, because when we do that, we have like n variables to be summed over, which each variable has k states. So in total, we can get the kn complexity. So if we continue to all of the observer data in HMM, it will grow exponentially. Solution to this is that we need to calculate emission probabilities for different states of Zn. So the next step is, in order to get the maximum likelihood for the HMM, so we use expectation maximization or EM algorithm to find the efficient framework to maximizing the likelihood function in HMM. So the first one, we initialize the model parameters as theta all. After that, we do the E step, that is the expectation steps. We need to find the posterior distribution of the latent variables given these parameters. While in the M steps, we maximize this function with respect to the parameters of theta, that is pi, a, and sigma. So here we shall use gamma Zn, which represent the marginal posterior distribution of latent Zn. Also epsilon Zn minus 1, Zn, which represents the joint posterior distribution of two successive latent variables. So we also get the gamma z for its k. So from here we can get the expression of znk, which equals to the sigma of gamma zn times znk. And also for epsilon, we have like this one. We can get the expectation of this, and we can get this formula. So by substituting this and our previous parameters by pi and a, so from our first observation, we know that first z doesn't have a parent, so we only have pi here. So by substituting this one in this z1 is equal to this, and for the rest it's just following the or formula here, that is using epsilon is referred to 1 epsilon zn minus 1 comma j with z and k, and because we have like a parameters a, that is transitional probabilities, so here we have like a j k. For the last step, we use gamma z and k learn p xn given sigma k. So maximizing this in m steps with respect to pi and a, we have this result. You know, we have three parameters, right? P, a, and as well the sigma. Over the sigma, to maximize this q theta all with respect to the sigma, we notice that the final term in this one is respect to the sigma, while others are done. So we only focus on this one. So here, for example, we can assume that in the Gaussian emission densities, so a with respect to this is equal to this formula, and by maximizing this function with respect to the sigma k is also similar to with respect to the mu k and also sigma k, and we get this formula. So for the next one, we will discuss about the forward-backward algorithm. So the idea behind this algorithm is that we need to find the efficient gamma z and k and epsilon zn minus 1, j and z and k. Graph of HMM is a tree. So we can get the posterior distribution of the latent variables by using the two stages message passing algorithm. This algorithm has many variants. However, in this presentation, we will focus only to discussing about the alpha-beta algorithm. So let's as we can evaluating the gamma z and k. From using the Bayes theorem, we can get this formula. And then we have the conditional independence property. So we can see here that the px given zn is equal to the px1 until pxn given zn times pxn plus 1 until x peak n given zn. So by substituting these two formulas, we can get this formula. As you can see here, because it will be used in this formula, so we know that we have like this one times pzn equal to the joint distribution of pxi pzn, while it is for this one it remains the same. So from this formula, we can get the value of alpha here, alpha zn and beta zn. For the alpha, it represents to this one, and for the beta, it represents to this one. For the next one, again, we shall use the conditional independence properties so that we can allow to express the value of alpha zn in terms of alpha zn minus 1, and the result of this conditional independence, we can get this formula. So as you can see here, we have like a recursive equation. So we have like this and zn and as well as zn minus 1. So for the left one, we call it this as emission, and for this one, we call it for transition. And for the first node, because the z1 doesn't have parent node, so alpha z1 is equal to this joint distribution, and we can get this formula. And from this formula, we can get this product of pi k p x1 given the sigma k with the power of z1k. So for this recursion can be illustrated from this diagram. As you can see here, we have like a z alpha zn comma 1 is represented as from this one, this one, this one, and for this one, and we do it recursively, and for the next one we will do it the same. And then from our alpha zn expression, we can get the value of beta zn. Similarly, we use the recursion and we can obtain the value of beta is equal to this one. And the illustration for the recursion is shown in this lattice diagram, similarly almost similar with the alpha, but for this one it's to predicting for the next one. So from our previous, the gamma of zn value is equal to the alpha zn times beta zn per px. So if we marginalizing over the zn, it will result of this one, because the value of summarizing the conditional probability, we can get is equal to 1. From this, we can get the probability of x is given by the summation of alpha zn and the beta zn. For the next one, we need to find an efficient epsilon as well. So from this epsilon value, we know that we got this probability, and then by applying the Bayes theorem, we can expand into this formula, and then we expand this x, count this one x1 until xn minus 1, and then xn until xn, x big N. But for this, we apply Bayesian theorem as well, and we can get this formula. You know that from this, it's equal to the alpha zn minus 1, and as well is in the same as well. And you know, from here, we can get the value of beta zn. How we train the HMM by using the forward-backward algorithm, almost similar with maximum likelihood, but the difference is that we use the alpha and beta approaches. So first, similarly with our previous maximum likelihood, we use theta. We need to initialize the parameters theta, where theta is equal to pi, a, and sigma. For the a and pi, we can initialize it in uniform or randomly, but for the parameter sigma, it will depend on the distribution. For example, here we use the Gaussian, so the parameters of the sigma, we initialize the mu k and sigma k from the k-means. And the next step is we run the forward recursion and the backward recursion, that's alpha and beta. After that, we can obtain the value of the gamma and the epsilon. From this formula, we can get the likelihood function px, because you know, it's similar with the sigma of the alpha times beta. And then we use the results from this to updating the theta value using in the m steps. It's similar with the maximum likelihood. So we continue the E and M steps until the value is convergent. And then the next approach to get the optimum parameters of hidden Markov models is that we can use the sum product algorithm. So the idea of this algorithm is that we have like directed graph here, which is represented in the hidden Markov models. So we have like g, the function to respect to z1, and we have a symbol with respect to function to zn. So this directed graph, you know, is a trick so that we can solve the problem of finding local margin for the hidden variable using the sum product algorithm. So in this algorithm, first we begin to transform this graph into this factor graph. So we have like a node z, and then there's a function from this z1 to z and so on. We have like fn here. So this leads to the simplified factor graph represented this figure, in which the factors are given by h z1 is equal to this, and for the fn zn minus 1 comma zn is equal to this formula. So we know that the gamma zn is equal to the conditional probability of zn, so we can get this formula, and then we expand into the graph form, so we can get the mu fn until zn like there, and times the mu fn plus 1 until zn in zn per px, and we can use this as the alpha zn times the beta zn. So to derive the alpha beta algorithm, we need the final hidden variable zn as the root node, and the first pass message from the leaf edge to the root. So from these two general results for message propagation, we see that the messages which are propagated in hidden Markov model are taken in the form to this form. So as we can see here, we have like mu fs to x is the sum of the previous fs and times the product of every node in here. But because in this hidden Markov model we have like only one branch here, so we neglect this product so that we can get the mu fs into x. We can this sum times this. However, for the xm into s, like here, is equals to this one, the product of all the branch of the function. But because in the HMM there's no branch, so this symbol is neglected. We only use this one. So mu xm into fs is equal to this. So from here we can get that mu fs into x is similar but on the previous state, and as a result we can get this formula. However, in fn zn we can get the summation on the previous states times the mu zn minus 1 into fn, while in zn minus 1, and then by substituting these two formula we can get this formula. However, for the next one, for the mu fn plus 1 into zn we can get this formula as well. So we know that the value of gamma zn is equal to this one, where it's alpha and beta, phi is equal to this and beta is equal to this, so that in this formula is equal to the alpha, and for this one is equal to the beta. After that, by substituting this one into each of this formula, we can get the recursion form of the alpha. It become like this. However, in the beta, by substituting the value of fn zn minus 1 zn, substitute to this, we can get the beta recursion form into like this one. And for the alpha case, because on Z1 it has no parent, so the alpha Z1 is similar with the H Z1, which is equal to this, and then we can apply the similar formula into form like this one. So how to train the hidden Markov model by using sum product algorithm? Actually, it's similar with our forward backward algorithm. So to sum up, the sequential data is any kind of data where the orders are matter, and then it sometimes arise in the form of time series. For example, like financial forecasting and predicting the weather, but also in the context form such as in DNA sequence and speech recognition. If we assume this sequential data as IID or independent and identical distribution, this assumption will be give the poor result. So then we have a Markov model where we can express it in the probabilistic model that is using the product rule to express the joint distribution of sequence in the observation in the form of this formula. We have an idea to use the latent variable to permit a rich class of models that to be constructed out of simple components for each observation xn. And then we have hidden Markov models, which can be viewed as a specific instant state space model, but the latent variables are discrete. And for the hidden Markov model, we can train this HMM to obtain the optimal parameters. The first one is using the maximum likelihood. So the step is first we initialize the parameter theta, which is contains of a, pi, and also the sigma. And then in the each steps, we take the posterior distribution of latent variables, the value of this one, and then we do the m step that is maximizing this q theta, theta out. So then we can get the new updated of theta. And then we repeat this process until we can get the optimal parameters of theta. And the next one for the forward backward algorithm and sum product algorithm, it's similar with the maximum likelihood. So the difference is that we use the alpha and beta parameter here, and then we also evaluate the value of gamma and epsilon, and then we can get the value of the likelihood function px. After that, we can get the optimum theta, repeat it until the value is convergent. So that's all for my presentation.